This conference will now be recorded.
All right, guys, today is Tuesday, December 11th. All right, and as always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. All right, so something that we're going to start noticing as, coming into December, the closer we get to basically the middle of the month, we start to see things slow down, big time. It's almost like, you could picture it as, if you have, a regular job, what happens is as we get closer towards the holidays, towards the new year, what happens is most people, you'll notice if you're working a regular job or pretty much anything, people start to get lazy. Everyone is, ready for the holidays, and we just don't see as much as we would normally, during a time of, just regular months, basically that September, October, November type deal. So keep that in mind as we're looking and as we're watching this market, because you can start to see it coming into the pre-market. Our pre-markets have just really been pretty much dismal. So one of the number one things I am looking at this morning is Facebook, and I'm going to tell you why. First thing is yesterday coming into the afternoon time, we got some really great buying at that 141 level and 142. So I know we did jump up this morning up to pretty much that 144, but overall, just not as much of a move as the amount of buying that we saw coming into this. And then earlier this morning, we can see at about 740-ish. We had 143.50. We got some nothing great, but decent ask prints for the time of the morning that it was, because the difficulty of trade level there. I mean, look at the orders as of right this second. So compared to basically before 8 o'clock, you got to figure the orders were even thinner. So definitely a difficulty of trade coming in there. Without a shadow of a doubt. Now, we didn't really get much at 140, but one thing I am looking at is the prints underneath the 144, 143.95. That's just a very interesting spot for someone to come in right below the level. We talk about that ballsy type trade all the time. So certainly like what I see going on there with Facebook, probably my number one this morning. And then I only have two other things that I've really been looking at. Everything else really just not showing many prints. So one of those being SFIX. So we can see yesterday, coming into the aftermarket, took a pretty big hit, and it's just been continuing on its way down since. And one thing that we have noticed at 21, it's a little bit mixed, but mostly everything that we've been seeing coming into this has been selling on the bigger side of things. We really haven't seen many people coming into cover. And the reason that I say covering is because of the fact that it's just, I mean, look at the trend that we're coming in. Where was it buying in Facebook? Facebook 141, 142, and 142.50. Let me just look at my notes and make sure that's correct. I know 141 and 142 100% off the top of my head. Give me 1 second. And then, yes, 142.50 as well. Was it at 143? That must have been a little bit earlier, I think, because it didn't. Okay, yes, 143 as well. Yep. So overall, basically almost every single level from 145, 141 coming back up. So there's certainly a lot of buying that we saw. And Twitter had some great buying as well into it. Not as good as we did, as we saw into Facebook. And as, at the end of the day, just remember on Twitter, we do still have someone that has a big position that came in at that 35 level. All right, so back to SFIX. Coming in, so the one thing that looking at again is that they're mostly selling there. And the one thing, just the interesting, once again, I don't, for basically lack of a better term, ballsy trade, but coming in at that 2110 level, you can see a nice burst coming in there as well. some nice prints coming in there. So overall, it's certainly showing us that there's more selling and there's continued selling still coming into there. That 21 level, just once again, just being a little bit mixed. Overall, we do have an ask print that kind of popped in there. That one ask print's not going to really have that much of an effect on things. So just kind of keep that in mind. But, a little bit of a pull up before we would end up continuing back down. On average, it moves $2. So based off the volume that we're seeing, 551,000 shares already, I'm going to expect this thing to have a lot bigger than a $2 range today. So keep that in mind as trading it. And the only other thing that I really see that I kind of, and it's not even that I really have that much of an interest, and I typed in the wrong thing again, but MYOS. And the reason being is because, at first this thing jumped up just kind of sitting in consolidation. For such a cheap stock, I really wasn't happy with the volume. But one thing that I did like is this push up towards 2. Now, we only got at first when we made that push up, I think we only got one print at that 2 level. If it lets me go back. Yeah, I think there was only one actual ask print that came in at the 2, and then we could see a little bit more new buying is actually coming in as we, as we're kind of just sitting there in that consolidation. It's at the bottom of my list, and once again, it's there just because I really, really would like to see the volume a little bit more consistent and more actually coming back into it. And as of this moment, I mean, we could see it's starting to pull back a little bit. Could be just from that buying. So something to keep an eye on, because if we do get a trigger back up above that 2 level, it's a real cheap stock. I love when these things start to run. So we're going to keep our eyes on this one as well. And other than that, guys, I just don't really see much else out there. Let's take a look at our everyday, our scanners, and let's take a look. All right, so MYOS we already know about. YRIV, absolutely nothing going on there. DSW is not terrible, but it's just a little bit inconsistent for me. And another thing is that it just doesn't really have any great prints out there. There's just no real show of hand that I've seen that really makes me, excited for what we're looking to happen. I mean, it's just, it's really just not doing much at all. I am going to put it on our list. On average, it trades about $1. It's already got 272,000 shares being traded this morning, so we're going to be expecting more than that. But this is another one that's going to go towards the bottom of the list. It is trading pretty smoothly, especially for how little the volume is, how low the volume is, and most points right here. We're going to need to see some type of controlling print, some type of show of hand in it before we're really going to make any type of decisions. LSCI, 229,000 shares. It's moving a little bit, but again, based off the volume that we're seeing coming into this, there's just better things that we're going to be looking at. Unless this thing starts to run, just not really much going on there. SPXL, 237,000 shares, just not really doing anything at all, and it's also an ETF. APHA, it does have buying sitting up around that 6 level. We do know that, but there's just nothing going on yet this morning for us to be paying attention to it. Once again, just better things for us to focus on once the market opens. And then AMD pretty much is doing the same thing that every other everyday or name brand stock out there is doing. It's just basically has pulled up, but really hasn't given any type of great prints out there, for stock. I mean, we did have good buying coming in underneath that 250 level, but other than that, just no real great show of hand, especially for a stock like AMD. I will get there in a second. Let's take a look at the scan of the loser side of the scanners. Let's see if anything. I know this list was really short from before. So we have SFIX, which is absolutely, we've already went over. We have some ETFs, and there's really not much going on there at all. So story in Apple. So Apple yesterday, we got buying at 170. And I told you guys, yesterday, if you go back to the chat, and that's one of the best things that you could do. If you missed, a morning, go into the search box and type in, for instance, AAPL. Whenever I talk about a stock, it's always going to be the ticker. And we talked about yesterday how the stock had to go back up above 170 before we would expect it to come back down. And the reason being is because we needed a big pull up. So yesterday afternoon, we got that mix that started off with ask prints at that 170 level. Okay, before the market closed, we ended up pulling back down from it. And what happened is we ended, we jumped back up. It had to go up above that 170 first before we were going to have any expectations of it continuing back down. I made stories last night from the search bar. It gives a ton of confidence in knowing the stories. And 100%. And you know what? It's in order, if you missed any part of the day, it's imperative that you understand where the actual prints themselves are going. So coming into it right now, I haven't seen anything at 172. So we know it needed to go above 170. A $2 move based off the prints we saw at 170, I'm completely fine with. It's all going to be, it's going to be determined based off of what we end up seeing coming in at these higher points. So we're getting a little bit of selling, we're getting a little bit of buying, but there's nothing here in Apple that's definitive that it has to continue up or it has to continue back down. So we're going to need to see a show of hand. And that's the biggest problem, like I was saying in the chat before, is that there's not many shows of hand in any of our everyday stocks. I mean, they're barely printing. I know they went up overnight, and that's great. But I mean, if you look at the actual volume itself that Apple has, been on, going up on, there's really not anything there so far. Okay, and if we go back to, let's just look at a stock like Baba. Okay, Baba this morning, we don't have one, it's got a nice trend up, and if you look overall, it's moved about $2. But if we look at the actual volume, it's barely got one bar that's over 10,000 shares, and it really it doesn't have many prints coming into it. Now, based off of everything else we see, this isn't too bad because, I mean, there's really nothing here that happened this morning besides selling on the bigger side of things. So, that's something that you certainly want to keep in mind when you're looking for what's going to happen. But that's not enough of a show of hand for me to base my morning trade off of it. From going to need to see something better coming in, and that's almost across the board. Just not really much out there that really, like I said, just gives us that show of hand, tells us definitively what we're going to be looking to happen. All right. So remember, the most important trade of our day is going to be that first trade that we take. So we're not going to just jump on something just because it it has a few variables into it. We want to make sure that somebody shows us this is exactly what the stock needs to do. SQ needs to pull back, had buying basically every level coming up yesterday. So SQ was actually on the scanner this morning, which just tells you how on the gainer side of things, which just tells you how bad the actual list itself is. But as it's been coming back up, it actually has been following the rules, David. From yesterday, from what I saw, it definitely had all buying, but almost every level that I saw, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here during the morning, but coming into the afternoon, basically from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, almost every single level that we saw that buying, it actually got its 50-cent pullback coming from. So something to keep in mind, but it's another one where it's just this morning, you could see the prints out here. I mean, it's definitely got selling. It had a sell print at 65, which, one sell print is not, one sell print, you got to understand, is going to be something that I'm going to pay attention to if I'm in the stock, but one sell print or one buy print is never going to be something I'm going to take a trade from. It's going to have to be some type of burst. It's going to have more than that. So as of right this morning, it's another one where it's kind of mixed, 63.50. Earlier this morning, we did get some selling that came into it, and it's kind of been pushing back up. So you know what? From what we're seeing right now, it certainly looks like we're going to be pulling back down after a little bit of a move up. But once again, I don't really. It's not a high enough percentage based off what we're seeing yet until we actually get something that comes in there and tells us exactly what it has to do. All right, guys. Anything else out there that I missed? So really what we're waiting for is we're waiting for someone to come in and take that position that shows us it's time to actually follow them. As of right this second, we don't really have a great one yet. So, we're just going to have to kind of the patience. Hey, remember when we can, especially coming into the, during December time, during holidays, even the end of November, when, starting with Thanksgiving, patience is so much more important during times when we're just not seeing a lot going on out there. There's no reason to force anything. We're going to see show of hands. It's a matter of waiting for those to come in before we jump on anything. All right, guys, so let's get ready for the morning. I will talk to everyone in the chat, and happy trading.